Hello viewers, welcome to Newsweek South Asia, where we will provide you fresh insights into South Asia's geopolitical, strategic and security situation. Let's take a look at the headlines first. Pakistan's controversial blasphemy laws lead to violence and chaos. Baloch activists call for unity against China-Pak alliance at 5th International Conference. And Pakistan's disruption tactics fail as election commence in Jammu and Kashmir. Let's begin the show with Pakistan, a country teetering on the brink as blasphemy laws plunge into chaos and violence. The brutal murder of a doctor accused of blasphemy exemplifies a system where due process is a mere illusion. Instead of protecting its citizens, the state fuels radicalization and mob justice, celebrating those who commit violence. As fear grips the country, Pakistan's reputation as a failed state deepens, leaving countless lives shattered and the rule of law in tatters. A report.
These troubling visuals of a police van set ablaze by an aggressive mob, along with their acts of vandalism, symbolize a broader crisis. Pakistan is engulfed in the flames of radicalization, a situation sanctioned by the state itself. This environment of chaos has led many to label the country as failed and doomed. A tragic incident underscoring this turmoil occurred on September 19th, when a doctor named Shahnawaz Shah was brutally murdered in Umarkot, Sindh, after being accused of sharing blasphemous posts on social media. He had previously been charged under the harsh Section 295C of the Pakistan Penal Code, which carries the death penalty for alleged blasphemy against Prophet Muhammad. The accusation was followed by major unrest as extremists took to the streets and staged a violent demonstration. Reports and disturbing images indicate that Dr. Shahnawaz was killed by Sindh police and his body was later taken to the civil hospital. This staged killing raises serious concerns about the misuse of blasphemy laws in Pakistan. Just days before his death, on September 17th, Dr. Shahnawaz was ordered to report to the health department in Karachi after being suspended from his position at the district headquarters hospital due to public outrage. The order highlighted a strong presumption that he had shared blasphemous content online. In a video released prior to the incident, Dr. Shahnawaz explained that hackers had posted the offensive material on his inactive account. Instead of launching a thorough investigation, authorities opted for a swift and unjust execution, reflecting a disturbing trend where blasphemy accusations are weaponized to silence individuals without evidence or due process. The fact that the policeman involved in his murder was celebrated with flowers further illustrates the depths of Pakistan's societal decline.
Blasphemy laws have traditionally existed for one reason and one reason alone, which is political. And very frequently personal as well. In medieval Europe, because the lending of money, usury as it's called, was not allowed, Jews used to be the target of every sort of blood libel rumor by a debtor who could not repay his debt. Today, it's a slightly different dynamic, but very similar. It's usually politically motivated in some form or the other, where you want to hide your own culpability.
Earlier in a troubling incident in Balochistan's Quetta, a policeman allegedly killed a man who was in custody on blasphemy charges. The issue of blasphemy in Pakistan is fraught with tension and has led to numerous acts of violence and murder. One of the most significant events was the assassination of Punjab Governor Salman Taseer in 2011 by his own bodyguard Mumtaz Qadri. Taseer had publicly criticized the blasphemy laws and advocated for reform, which ultimately cost him his life. Following the assassination, Qadri was hailed as a martyr by certain segments of society. Another prominent case involved Asya Bibi, a Christian woman accused of blasphemy after a disagreement with neighbors. She spent nearly 10 years on death row before her acquittal in 2018. This case sparked widespread protests and unrest, culminating in the murder of her lawyer Shahbaz Bhatti, a Christian minister, in 2011. Additionally, the 2017 lynching of Mashal Khan, a university student at Abdul Wali Khan University, underscored the perils of mob justice surrounding blasphemy accusations. His brutal murder highlighted the extreme volatility and dangers inherent in such allegations.
Pakistan, remember, is fundamentally a feudal agrarian society that in most parts still exists in the 7th or the 11th century. And the characteristic of that society is, the spreading of gossip and rumors followed by large lynch mobs that target religious establishments, usually for some kind of political or personal reason, but masked up as religious whatever. So it's not very surprising what has happened out there.
The blasphemy laws in Pakistan have fostered a culture of fear and intolerance. Many individuals accused of blasphemy face violent reprisals, often without due process. Reports indicate that the laws disproportionately affect religious minorities such as Hindus, Christians, and Ahmadis. These events underscored the severe consequences of the blasphemy allegations in Pakistan, illustrating the intersection of religion, law, and social dynamics.
The Baloch National Movement held its 5th International Conference in Geneva to draw attention to the ongoing human rights abuses in Balochistan. Speakers, including BNM Chairman Naseem Baloch, stressed the importance of unity among marginalized communities advocating for autonomy. They condemned the oppressive actions of both Pakistan and China, particularly against the Baloch people and Uyghur Muslims, and urged for ongoing efforts to expose these violations. The conference called for increased advocacy to support liberation movements in Balochistan, Xinjiang, and other affected regions. Take a look.
And dignity. Men and women.
The Baloch National Movement launched the 5th Balochistan International Conference in Geneva, coinciding with the 57th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council. The event was part of a series of activities organized by the BNM to highlight the ongoing human rights abuses in Balochistan and draw international focus to the region's political situation. The conference featured speeches by notable human rights activists, political figures, and legal experts who addressed a wide array of concerns regarding the human rights violations in Balochistan. Following the conclusion of the event, Baloch activists emphasized the key issues discussed during the event.
प्रोग्राम का मकसद ये है कि दुनिया को पाकिस्तान का जो असल चेहरा दिखाना है। पाकिस्तान हर वक्त बलूचिस्तान को पॉजिटिव दिखाता है। वहाँ पर सी पे जो रूट्स बन रहे हैं, उधर बलूचों का खुशहाली बता रहा है। तो उधर जो मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया है, उधर बिल्कुल जो है बलूचिस्तान का जो पाबंदी है। तो इसीलिए बलूच नेशनल मूवमेंट हर साल जब जिधर भी इंटरनेशनल प्लेटफार्म आते हैं, उधर जो है बलूचिस्तान की आवाज़ को दुनिया में पहुंचाना चाहता है। उधर जो है एक जेनोसाइड हो रहा है। ये नहीं कि जेनोसाइड सिर्फ जो है लोगों को मार कर हो रहा है, उधर हर चीज़ का जेनोसाइड, एजुकेशन जेनोसाइड हो रहा है। कल्चरली जो है आपको ख़त्म किया जा रहा है। आपको जो है जो ग्वादर को जो फेसिंग कर रहा है, जिधर के लोग हैं उधर उसी के नाम पर पाकिस्तान जो है एग्रीमेंट कर रहा है इंटरनेशनली।
BNM Chairman Naseem Baloch emphasized the importance of the conference, which brought together representatives from various communities including Sindhis, Kashmiris, Pashtuns and Uyghurs. He highlighted the shared struggles for autonomy in their regions and expressed a strong desire to unite these groups. Additionally, Baloch emphasized the roles of both Pakistan and China in these violations.
आज की कॉन्फ्रेंस में हमने जो पाकिस्तान या चाइना के पॉलिसियों से जो मुतासिर अक़वाम हैं उन सबको इकट्ठा करने की कोशिश की है। इनमें हमारे साथ सिंधी, पश्तो, कश्मीरी और उइगुर मुस्लिम्स भी हमारे साथ थे, जिन्होंने बलूचिस्तान, पश्तूनिस्तान, सिंधु देश और ईस्ट तुर्किस्तान की जो मूवमेंट है उस पर एक अच्छी तरीके से बात की है, दुनिया को आज़ादी देने की कोशिश की है। ये हमारी बल्कि एक कोशिश भी है कि ये तमाम अक़वाम यूनाइट होकर, मुत्तहिद होकर चाइना और पाकिस्तान के ख़िलाफ़ एक इत्तेहाद बनाएं, ताकि हम इन मज़ालिम हम पे डाले जा रहे हैं पाकिस्तान चाइना अलायंस के ज़रिए, उनका हम एक ताकत के ज़रिए, एक मुत्तहिद फोरम के ज़रिए उसका मुकाबला कर सकें और इन मज़ालिम से और इस ऑक्यूपेशन से जल्दी छुटकारा पाए।
Baloch activists condemned China's role in Balochistan, accusing it of exploiting the region's natural resources through strategic projects, which they claimed have exacerbated the oppression of the Baloch people. At the conference, Baloch activists urged for unity in opposing the China-Pakistan alliance.
Basically, the objective of this conference was to highlight ongoing human rights violations in Balochistan. As previously, the human rights violations were only done by Pakistan, but this time, as we feel, China is part of these violations, helping out Pakistan to do human rights violations. So the event was a very successful event. From all around the world, different people came and they participated.
The China-Pakistan alliance, often framed as a strategic partnership, has significant implications for human rights in both countries, particularly in regions like Balochistan and Xinjiang. In Balochistan, the Baloch people face systematic repression, including enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, and restrictions on freedom of speech and assembly. The Pakistani military and paramilitary forces have been accused of targeting dissenters and activists, leading to a climate of fear. In Xinjiang, the Chinese government has been accused of perpetrating widespread human rights abuses against the Uyghur population and other Muslim minorities. Reports from human rights organizations detail mass internment camps where over 1 million Uyghurs and others are allegedly detained without trial.
Moving on, as the first phase of elections in the Kashmir Valley commenced, the atmosphere was vibrant and hopeful, in stark contrast to the narratives pushed by Pakistan and its affiliates. Days before voting, security forces engaged in a crucial encounter in Baramulla, eliminating 3 terrorists and showcasing their commitment to maintaining peace. This proactive action highlighted the challenges posed by terrorism to the democratic process. As India invests in the region's development, Pakistan's support for violence aims to disrupt this progress. Take a look.
As the first phase of elections unfolded in the Kashmir Valley, the atmosphere was not only politically charged but also economically dynamic, presenting a stark contrast to the narratives propagated by Pakistan and its affiliated terrorist organizations. This development posed significant challenges for these groups, which thrive on instability and unrest. The elections represented a crucial milestone in the political empowerment of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, allowing them to participate actively in shaping their governance and future. However, Pakistan made concerted efforts to disrupt this democratic process in India's union territory. In a preemptive move, security forces engaged in an encounter with terrorists in Baramulla just days before the elections. This confrontation, which took place in the Pattan area of the northern Kashmir district, resulted in the elimination of 3 terrorists. The gunfight erupted when a joint team of the army and local police, acting on reliable intelligence, launched a cordon and search operation in the region. The successful operation not only neutralized the immediate threat but also underscored the commitment of security forces to maintain peace and order during this pivotal electoral period.
The operation continued into the morning when our troops, in a very professional manner, engaged the terrorists and neutralized them without causing any collateral damage to civilian life or property. In this operation, a total of 3 hardcore terrorists were neutralized and a large quantity of warlike stores were recovered.
As India invests in infrastructure, healthcare and education in Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistan perceives these developments as a direct challenge to its baseless claims over the region, which it views as integral to its national identity and political narrative. In response to these perceived threats, Pakistan has supported and facilitated various terror groups operating in Jammu and Kashmir. This cycle of violence, driven by Pakistan's frustrations with India's development efforts, has created significant obstacles to the peace process. According to reports, several terror groups run training camps in areas like Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, where individuals receive training for armed conflict, especially targeted at India.
But the truth is, Pakistan never stopped using POJK as a launchpad, as a training center, as a hideout for the terrorists. It never dismantled the infrastructure that is required to promote terrorism and export to India.
The acts of terrorism have not only disrupted stability but also complicated diplomatic dialogue between the two countries. However, India has consistently and effectively countered these acts of terrorism, employing a robust security response while simultaneously emphasizing its commitment to development and democratic governance in the region.
Pakistan is clearly rattled by the success of abrogation of Article 370 and 35A in Jammu and Kashmir, as the number of tourists has been increasing phenomenally every year since 2019. Also, with peace and prosperity setting in Jammu and Kashmir and the number of terrorist incidents going down pre-2019 clearly show that the Indian government did a wise step by abrogating Article 370 and 35A. Hence, Pakistan is leaving no stone unturned now to foment more trouble in Jammu and Kashmir, as it is not able to digest the peace and prosperity that is settling down in Jammu and Kashmir.
The Kashmir issue is central to Pakistan's national narrative and is often used to rally domestic support. By portraying itself as the protector of Kashmiri rights, Pakistan seeks to assert its influence in South Asia and maintain its standing on the global stage. This intricate relationship between identity and politics influences Pakistan's strategy towards Kashmir and underlies its support for terrorist actions. On the other hand, India is dedicated to enhancing the quality of life for the Kashmiri people, presenting a stark contrast to Pakistan's support for terrorism, which is seen as a destabilizing force. India's focus on development, infrastructure, and community well-being underscores its commitment to fostering peace and stability in the region.
The UN is urgently calling for coordinated international aid efforts in Afghanistan, where millions face dire humanitarian challenges, including widespread poverty and food insecurity. With the 2024 Afghanistan humanitarian response plan only 30% funded, the crisis is poised to worsen without increased support. Concerns over human rights violations under the Taliban, particularly affecting women and marginalized groups, have led to a significant decline in aid. A report.
The humanitarian landscape in Afghanistan is marked by widespread poverty, food insecurity, and lack of access to essential services such as healthcare and education. Many families are struggling to meet their basic needs, with reports indicating that millions are on the brink of famine. Moreover, the restricted international engagement has led to a lack of oversight and coordination in humanitarian efforts, further complicating the delivery of aid. UN officials have therefore called for a renewed commitment from the international community to support humanitarian programs in Afghanistan, stressing that without adequate funding and cooperation, the crisis will deepen, potentially leading to widespread suffering and instability.
I'm greatly concerned that 2024 Afghanistan humanitarian response plan is only 30% funded, with around $900 million received of the $3 billion required.
The world's limited engagement with Afghanistan is primarily driven by concerns over human rights violations and the treatment of women under the current regime. This reluctance has resulted in a significant decline in aid reaching those in need. As international support diminishes, many humanitarian organizations struggle to provide essential services, worsening the already critical situation for millions of Afghans. Recently, Slovenia's Minister of Foreign and European Affairs chaired a Security Council debate in New York that focused on the deteriorating situation for women and girls in Afghanistan. In a joint press statement, she emphasized that the systematic and comprehensive nature of the restrictions on the rights of women and girls may constitute gender persecution and must stop immediately.
Afghan women play an indispensable role in ensuring the prospect for a peaceful, stable, prosperous and inclusive Afghanistan, including the country's long-term development. However, since their takeover, the Taliban adopted numerous measures targeting women and girls and severely restricting their full, equal, meaningful and safe participation in all spheres of economic, cultural, social, political and public life. We are counting more than 1,100 days of continued repression and human rights abuses against women and girls across the country.
The Taliban's unwillingness to engage with the international community has resulted in widespread and systematic human rights violations, particularly against women and marginalized groups. Their refusal to listen to global concerns and adhere to basic human rights standards has led to increased oppression within Afghanistan. This disregard for international norms has severe consequences for the Afghan population, who are already suffering from the impact of decades of conflict. Many people are cut off from access to essential services such as healthcare, education, and economic opportunities. The ongoing human rights abuses contribute to a climate of fear and uncertainty, leaving millions vulnerable and marginalized.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We will be back next week with more news, views and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@anin.com. This is Akansha signing off on behalf of the entire team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.